What's up, Nasdaq lovers? Most of you love Nasdaq a lot, so this is gonna be just a trading guide. Nasdaq has been pushing up for the past couple of days. Okay, if you go to the weekly time frame, you observe that we had a very strong push. For the previous week, we had a very strong push. Okay, it was a continuation from, and we broke almost the previous week's high. Okay, so last week was a very good week for buy entries. Okay. And Nasdaq is currently at pushing higher and higher and higher. Okay, so for people who trade Nasdaq, you can go to the M30 so that you can find more seasoned entries where to take your entries for buys. Okay, so here we have a demand zone around here. Okay, here we also have a demand zone which is in line with the support and resistance. Here there's also another demand zone. Okay, so if you're to take your entries for buys on Nasdaq coming next week, what I'm expecting right now is for price to first of all show me signs that is likely to continue its upward move. Okay, we also have another demand zone here, so there are so many ways to take entries for buy. So we may have a pullback maybe, and then we may see price push higher. Okay, so the first pullback will be, that's the first one, then the second one is here, so price could potentially reach this demand zone and then continue higher, and then price can also potentially come towards this demand zone and then continue higher, and then price can potentially come to this demand zone over here, the last one, and then we could have another push towards the top. Okay, but our target, if you go to the weekly perspective, our target is for price to make a new higher high. As simple as that. We're expecting price to make a new higher high, so this will be your TP for next week. Okay, but since the price is overpriced, I wouldn't take entries for buys right away because it's so overpriced. So I would wait for price to either make a pullback so that I can take my entries. Okay, but yeah, that's how it's looking for Nasdaq. For people who use fibs, you can go to the daily time frame, and then for instance, if you are to use your fibs, you can look at let me just go to the weekly so that I can show you better. So from the weekly perspective, this was the weekly end. Okay, and then this was where the week started. So given those buys, we may have a pullback to the 61.8. okay, so that's a good zone. So the first zone is around here. That's the first zone where you can take your entries for buys. And then I also love the zone around 23 and 23.6 and 38.2. This is also another good zone. Okay, so these are the two areas that I'm looking for if you have to use your fibs. And if you notice, if you go to the daily time frame, for instance, you will notice that these areas are all nearer our demand zones. Okay, all these areas are near our demand zones, so they are very good entries. Okay, but if you observe from the daily perspective, you also have a supply zone around here, so price has to first of all surpass this nearest supply zone before it have a push towards the top. Okay, but people who have been trading supply, you know that we are, in most of the cases, at least 90% of the cases, we want to see price make a rejection, but you have not seen any rejection. On top of that, if you observe to the extreme left, we also have we had another, this was a demand zone. Okay, this was a supply zone, sorry, and price already tested that supply zone around here. That means it has been weakened, so we may have a push towards the top. If price fails to make any rejection in this supply zone, may have a continuation towards the top. Okay, so since we are looking for buys, you can even go to the low time frame. The H1 can also work. Okay, so from the H1 perspective, you see that price has already reached the zone. If you observe here, we have a drop based drop. Okay, this is a good drop based drop, actually a very good drop based drop. If you observe here, that's a very good drop based drop, and if price manages to surpass this area, we may actually have chances for price to even continue higher. but so far we have seen that price is actually resisting, so we're expecting a pullback maybe to this demand zone on the H1, okay, after which we may see a continuation towards the top. As simple as that. That's my analysis for Nasdaq. Okay, that's what I'm expecting for next week. If price is able to push towards this demand zone, then I'm looking to take entries for buys to take it to the top. Okay, but if this demand zone fails, well, there is another second demand zone here, which is in line with the support and resistance. Okay, we also have a third one around here. Okay, so but for people who have been trading Nasdaq, you know that the second one, which is in line with the support and resistance, is usually the strongest. Therefore, it could be a good potential area to take your buys from. Okay,